When people think of reading the Confucian classics, they usually imagine sitting down with the unfiltered words of ancient philosophers. The reality is that the intellectual and political authority of these ancient texts was built retroactively. It was engineered over 2 millennia through an unbroken chain of commentaries, known as Zhushu. Orthodoxy requires navigating the dense, highly curated layers of interpretation that successive imperial dynasties built around the ancient core. We can see this structure mapped out in the 18th century Siku Quanshu, or Complete Library of the Four Treasuries. This imperial catalog divided all knowledge into 4 branches: history, masters, belles letters, and the classics. Inside the classics branch, ancient texts don't exist as independent books. They are entirely embedded with subcategories of commentary, completely enveloped by interpretive layers. For modern scholars, the definitive gateway to this complex structure is a specific Qing period compilation assembled by the scholar Wan Yuan. It is called the Shisanjing Zhushu, which translates to the 13 classics with commentaries and subcommentaries. Because this specific Qing compilation serves as our operational lens today, we must reverse engineer its contents to see how the Chinese intellectual landscape was codified over the last 2,000 years. The lowest layer of this textual stratigraphy was laid down during the early imperial expansions of the Han and Tang dynasties. During this period, the state curriculum relied heavily on 2 main groupings of texts: the Wu Jing, or 5 classics, and the Sanli, the 3 ritual classics. The Han scholar Zhang Suen provided the definitive interpretations for these ritual texts. His primary commentaries, or Zhu, locked down the meaning of the ancient rites so they could be standardized for state use. Centuries later, the Tang dynasty consolidated a continental empire. Governing that territory required an even more rigorous, universally standardized curriculum for its civil servants. The imperial court commissioned the scholar Kang Ing Da to compile the Wu Jing Zheng Yi, or correct meaning of the 5 classics, a project that synthesized and resolved older competing interpretations. Kang Ing Da's work functioned as a shu, a subcommentary. It enveloped Zhang Suen's earlier Han commentaries, encasing both the original text and the primary commentary inside a final, unquestionable syllabus. By the late Tang dynasty, the foundational architecture of the canon was structurally complete. It operated as a highly regulated engine for statecraft and bureaucratic cohesion. The Song dynasty, however, initiated a drastic intellectual pivot. Scholars began to move away from the statecraft concerns of the Tang. They reordered the entire canon. The older emphasis on the 5 classics was displaced by an intense focus on a new grouping called the Zhushu, or 4 books: the Analects, the Mencius, the Great Learning, and the Doctrine of the Mean. This numerical shift from 5 texts to 4 maps a sharp turn toward internal ethics and Neo-Confucian metaphysics. The architect of this shift was Zhu. He authored the Zhushu Zhangju Jiju, an extensive collection of interlinear commentary that forcefully bound these 4 independent texts together into a single cohesive philosophical unit. Zhu's interpretations became the new bedrock of imperial orthodoxy. The state eventually mandated that all civil service examination candidates memorize his specific commentaries in order to pass, directly altering the curriculum of the empire. This new framework reached beyond high philosophy to dictate private life. Zhu also composed the Jiali, a set of house rituals that regulated the daily reality of families across the empire. The Song era proves the inherent fluidity of the Confucian canon. By shifting the weight of official commentary to a new set of texts, a dynasty can rewrite the philosophical operating system of the entire empire. Moving into the Qing dynasty, the intellectual climate shifted again. Instead of generating new metaphysical theories, scholars engaged in a rigorous campaign of philological recovery. The way texts were handled changed structurally. Rather than writing isolated interpretations, Qing scholars began assembling disparate commentaries into encyclopedic macro-collections known as changsu. A distinct cohort of scholars, including Hu Wei, Rui Dong, and Jiang Yong, systematically analyzed these documents. Their goal was to strip away centuries of transmission errors and recover the precise, ancient meanings of the words. This encyclopedic impulse culminated in the work of Ruan Yong. He aggregated hundreds of years of these disparate, highly technical commentaries into a single master compilation. Ruenyuan's Shisanjing Zhushu finalized the textual boundaries of the tradition. It permanently cemented the official canon into the exact 13 texts we recognize today. Subsequent supplementary collections, such as Wang Shanqian's Huangqing Jingjie Shubian, continued this rigid boundary-setting process well into the late imperial era. The defining achievement of the Qing scholars was a masterpiece of bibliographic curation. They built the definitive database, organizing 2,000 years of scattered, evolving thought into one unified orthodox interface. Over 2 millennia, the canon expanded, from 3 ritual classics to 5, recentered on the 4 books, and solidified into the 13. Throughout this evolution, the core reality remained the same. The Confucian classics are inseparable from their surrounding layers of commentary. The commentary itself is the primary medium. It is the active mechanism that allowed these ancient texts to survive, adapt to new eras, and function as political tools. These shifting numerical taxonomies, from the Sanli to the Shisanjing, trace the evolving geometry of state power. Viewing scholarship from early empires to the late Qing, individual scholars fade into a structural silhouette. This shape, accumulated text over time, is the footprint of Chinese intellectual history, revealing distinct peaks of Tang statecraft, Song metaphysics, and Qing philology. Sinologists use the Shisanjing Zhushu to navigate a deliberate, late imperial architecture engineered to encapsulate 2,000 years of civilization.